Good morning, and welcome to Beit Zayit Messianic Congregation. We're a congregation of Jews and Gentiles who believe in Messiah, Yeshua. I don't have the normal spiel in front of me this morning that we usually say, but at this time of the year, our hearts are heavy. And I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of love for this community and for our elder, Alan Burner, at the loss of his wife, Jacqueline. Jackie was arguably the cornerstone of this congregation. I've said it all week to those who have told about it. She was the better half of 1/4 of the founding members of this congregation. Her passing leaves a giant hole, not only in this congregation, but our individual hearts. Our thoughts and our prayers are with Alan and the McClanahan family today. But we can trust in Yeshua HaMashiach, the promise that He gave us, that He would give us a comforter. The Ruach HaKodesh is a comforter, the Holy Spirit of the Almighty. Lean into Him this morning. Lean into Him every morning from this point forward, and make Jackie's memory a blessing. I know it will be for me. I want to welcome each and every one of you online. Today, our Sabbath services were to continue with joy, but we still have to mourn. Thank you all for your attention.
Amen. So for today, we're going to do something a little different than we normally would. Barbara is going to offer, it's not a specific Drash, but she's going to offer something and share something with you all today. And there we are. And I'll hand it over to you, Barbara.
Shabbat Shalom. I tried to prepare for a Drash this week, and it was difficult. This has been a hard week. We all love Jackie. Jackie loved all of us, more than we'll ever know. She was such a light. Her smile was so welcoming. Jackie would message me throughout the week. She would send me memes. She'd send me jokes. She'd say, "How are you? I'm praying for you. How are the kids?" And just through the week, I might be in an inspection and something might pop through. 2023 has been a little difficult. I've had a lot of battles, a lot of adversity. And Jackie knew that. And just a couple weeks ago, she sent me something. It was a devotion she found. Her back had been bothering her. And she said, "I thought you might like this. This might help you." And I've been going through my messages all week, just grabbing Jackie, grabbing her and holding her close. And I've looked at this every day, and it really just helped me in moments. And I wasn't going to share it. I had no intention of sharing it because I was going to try to keep it for myself. But this morning, so it was just, you've got to share this because it might help somebody. So I'm going to do my best to get through this. And so this came from Jackie. Jackie did not write this. but this was something that she shared, and I'm going to share it. How can I find courage in times of adversity? Joshua 1, 6 through 9. Be strong and courageous, for you shall give his people possession of the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to all the laws which Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or the left, so that you may have success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to that all is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. When we're in adversity and challenging situations, it's like boot camp. It's rigorous, painful, and challenging. Difficulties cause us to adapt new routines and habits, to mature in physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of our being, and to grow in our relationship with the Lord. During these times of trial, we need to remain courageous and faithful. We must not stray. We must not, my eyes are blurry. Just give me a minute here. We must also stay steadfast in our devotion of the Lord as we battle feelings of doubt, fear, and limitation. He will provide the strength and hope not only to endure the hardship, but also to make the changes that are required of us, so we can claim the blessings of God. Thankfully, we can trust Him to transform the body of our humble state into conformity with the body of His glory. Philippians 3:21. To change us so we are life-honoring for Him, our Savior Yeshua, and face every hurdle with valor. Joshua to succeed the Moses and lead the Israelites. As a close associate of Moses, Joshua had grown in his faith and leadership's ability. He also knew all about adversity. Without question, the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness had subjected him to physical, relational, spiritual, emotional, and mental hardships that helped him to understand the harsh realities of pain and suffering. Yet Joshua also knew that the Lord was with him and the nation of Israel. The assurance gave him all he needed to persevere, no matter how difficult the situation became. When the time came for the people of God to cross the Jordan River and inhabit the land of promise, the Lord named Joshua as a leader to succeed Moses and admonished him about being courageous. With him about being courageous. Be strong and courageous, for you shall give his people possession of the land which I swore to the fathers to give them. Joshua 1:6. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Joshua 1:7. Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. 3 things that required Joshua to be brave. 1, making decisions that affected other people under his leadership. 2, keeping the laws and commandments even as changes occurred. 3, remembering continually that the Lord was with him, despite what circumstances might indicate the contrary. So there will be times in each of us that we need to be strong and courageous. And we need to be strong and courageous now. The storms of life strike without warning, and we find ourselves crying out to Him. God, help us. Comfort us. We need His wisdom, hope, and assurance. And when we measure life's challenges and trials against His mighty power, we gain the courage we need to proceed on the triumph, because He has already won the eternal victory for us. Jackie was a light. She's sort of like the menorah. She lit the way. She was a light for everyone. And I tried to remember that all this week. Jackie wants us to continue to do the work she laid. If it weren't for her, I don't know where I'd be right now. Don't know where my family would be. So this week, as we walk through these trying times coming up ahead, remember Jackie as the light that she shined on others, and to shine your light, to comfort each other, to love each other beyond measures, to hug each other harder, and just to be there. But be strong and be courageous. Shabbat Shalom.
I'm going to put this over here. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You know, it is taking a little while, but man, it's so good to be with you guys and together. And it is comforting. And then in the presence of the Lord, too. And I think probably just about everybody's talked to Alan, but maybe not everyone. He's doing well, by the way, as well as you could expect. I mean, he's cried and he's crying and excuse me. But I think he's said so, and I believe it's very genuine that he really feels the love from the congregation and the support from the congregation. And I think he is having a hard time keeping up with the food. But he's stretching. He's working hard to eat this amazing food that everyone's bringing him. So, considering the circumstances, Alan is doing well, and you know, Alan is still Alan. Alan still can't help himself but smile sometimes, and can't help himself but crack a joke. But I think he's in a healthy place. I mean, he is mourning, and he's acting like you would expect him to act, I guess. Maybe I don't need to say that, but it's good. And so I'd like to talk about Jackie some as well, and I do have a message prepared. I don't have to even do that, but there's a diamond on this screen here. Sam put that together for me because in thinking about Jackie, and I always use the God's Word as the multifaceted diamond, and the more you turn it, the more you see. Well, Jackie is like that too, right? I mean, we've known Jackie for not quite 5 years. Some of you have only known her for a short time. A lot of you have known Alan and Jackie for way longer than that. And I think we all have their unique experiences, but just the way you guys described Jackie is so right on. The smile, the genuine care that she shows for people, the strength that she has as well, both in business but also in the Lord. And it's just been a real pleasure knowing Jackie. And so, yeah, multifaceted diamond. And we all have our stories that we could tell. I was listening out front to the service this morning, and part of the prayers was talking about our high priest that understands how we feel. And he was tempted in every way. And I've always sort of, in my mind, you make that a sin thing, but he was human in every way. God in every way, human in every way. So he can understand what it is we're going through. But to put even more, I guess, meat on those bones is, I think of the story of Lazarus, and I know we all know the story of Lazarus, but it was good to read it. Bear with me, guys. So Lazarus wasn't just a Joe Blow that God happened to use. Jesus knew Lazarus. Yeshua knew Lazarus. He knew Mary and Martha. They were brothers and sisters. And when they sent word to Yeshua, they said in verse 3, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." So I know Jesus loves everybody, but there was something very specific. He whom you love is ill. And later in verse 5 it says, "Now Jesus," and again this is Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. It mentions it specifically. But Jesus didn't come and we know that. And it's not like he didn't know what was happening. He knew exactly what was happening, and he knew what the Father was going to do, right? I don't think it was a surprise to him. So he waited, and we know that Lazarus died. And what really stands out to me is that when Yeshua saw the people mourning, it affected him. He already knew the happy ending. He knew Lazarus was going to be raised, but he saw the people mourning and weeping, and it affected him. Verse 32. Now when Mary came to where... I'm sorry, I had Jesus because I'm going to talk about this tomorrow too, and we're going to have a mixed audience. So don't think I've abandoned Yeshua. But I did write this for any number of people. So when Mary came to where Yeshua was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Yeshua saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved, and in his spirit greatly troubled. I think we could say that we've been deeply moved this week and troubled. And here, the Son of God, Yeshua, our Master, he was deeply moved by Lazarus' death, and he was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Yeshua wept. Why does he weep? Why is he weeping? He knows everything's going to be just fine. But yet here he is weeping. So the Jews said, See how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying? And it goes on, I won't read it all, but then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb, deeply moved. Again, Yeshua, he knows the happy ending. And we know that Jackie's doing just fine right now, right? There is a happy ending. But is it possible that we, knowing Jackie's happy ending, and Yeshua knowing Jackie's happy ending, that Yeshua is also mourning with us now when he looks on us and sees us weeping, sees us deeply troubled, sees us missing Jackie, hears our questions of, why suddenly? It was too soon, Father. Wouldn't you say? Don't you think it was too soon? But he's weeping with us, and he understands what we're going through, and still knowing that everything's just fine with Jackie. So to me, that was really comforting to know that Yeshua absolutely can relate to what we're going through. And sometimes you think, well, he's God. Well, he's also fully man. He's fully has experienced what we're experiencing. And I think it's not just a past tense. I think it's a present tense. He understands what we're going through. He's feeling the sadness that we're feeling as well. So I was walking in with Michelle, and she's like, what do we do now? And I'm like, yeah, what do we do? Jackie's gone. And we've got to keep going. For some reason, what's been in my heart all week is the two greatest commandments. Jesus reiterated those commandments specifically. And he says that's what you got to do. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. All the Torah and prophets hang off of these two things. So it's a very specific two things to do, but we know it's really broad as well. But it just really struck me that, Jackie is helping us now, even now, fulfill these two commandments. Her death has made us draw ever so much closer to God and love Him more. And her death is drawing us ever so much closer to the people we love. And in a way, those are Jackie's final gifts to us all to help us keep the two greatest commandments. And I'm so grateful for Jackie, and I'm so grateful for this congregation. I'm so grateful for Alan. And I think, this is a tough patch. But we do know what to do. We're going to continue to love our God, and we're going to continue to love each other. And we have the promise of being reunited one day as well. So, with that, those were some of my thoughts on Jackie. It is 12. I have some amazing stats prepared if you want. Or we can eat if you want. But this week's Parsha is Vayakhel and Pekudei. It's a double Parsha. And I do have scriptures for this. Exodus 35:1. Moshe assembled the whole community of the people of Israel and said to them, "These are the things which Adonai has ordered you to do." So Moses gathered the people together. He's given them instructions on how to build the tabernacle, the Mishkan. We know from this morning, if you hadn't read it before, it's very detailed, right? It takes a while to get through that. Also, Exodus 35, verses 30 through 35. And I'm with Ryan, possibly some of the hardest names to work through in the Bible. But I love this story. See, Adonai has singled out Beit Zayit, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah. Verse 31, He has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, understanding, and knowledge concerning every kind of artisanry. He is a master of design. I'm okay with this, but I really not very good at turning wrenches, not very good at swinging hammers or understanding. So I have a lot of respect for people that are able to create things, and it's just really neat that specifically God mentioned these guys by name. He had a purpose for them. Jumping down to verse 34, Adonai has also given him Oholiab, the son of Achisamach of the tribe of Dan, the ability to teach others. He has filled them with the skill needed for every kind of work. So not only did he give them these amazing skills that were extraordinary, they weren't for the average person. They weren't probably for Bruce Dotson. That's okay, though. But he didn't just give it to them for their own glory, right? Look how good I am. I'm amazing. He also gave them the ability to teach, right? So the Father gave them these very specific, extraordinary skills, including the ability to teach those skills to other people. So they weren't to keep it all together for themselves. Even with all the skill, they could not do the work, right? The labor had to be shared. So, moving on to Exodus 36:2. Moshe summoned Beit Zayit and Oholiab and every craftsman to whom Adonai had given wisdom, everyone whose heart stirred him to come and take part in the work. I think that's interesting that God stirred their hearts to take part of the work. So it wasn't done through guilting them or forcing them or having some kind of drive to do it. God not only gave them skill, but He gave them the desire to put those skills to use. And the people kept bringing voluntary Let's see. Let's jump to the next verse, I think, here. Perhaps not. I'll find my place. So Moshe gave an order which was proclaimed throughout the camp, neither men nor women are to make any further efforts for the sanctuary offering. In this way, the people were restrained from making additional contributions. He had to give a decree. Stop, you're giving too much. That's pretty amazing too. But remember, not too long ago, that the people had been asked for donations another time, right? Just a couple chapters back in Exodus 32, we had the golden calf incident. Aaron said to them, "Have your wives, sons, and daughters strip off their gold earrings and bring them to me." Exodus 32, 4 through 6. He received what they gave him, melted it down, made it into the shape of a calf. And they said, "Israel, here is your God who brought you up from the land of Egypt." On seeing this, Aaron built an altar in front of it and proclaimed, "Tomorrow it is to be a feast for Adonai." Early the next morning, they got up and offered burnt offerings and presented peace offerings. And the people sat down and ate and had a party. So it's interesting. You have two very similar things, right? The people they gave a lot of their stuff, right? They were generous. And they didn't come out of Egypt with that. I mean, they didn't have that on their own. They came out of Egypt with it. But what they had asked from Aaron something that was perverted, right? It was like, we want a kosher hamburger, now wrap it with bacon, right? He said, tomorrow is to be a feast for Adonai. And they made the idol, the golden calf. So how can this be a feast for Adonai? I mean, just what are they thinking? They even brought burnt offerings and peace offerings. The people, really, they had panicked, so they created something out of thin air, right? They just, let's make something. So it's all very similar, very familiar, but the Torah lays out, it's similar to what the Torah lays out, but it's not quite right. And, sorry, I only have like 3 stories. I told this story a couple years ago. But this whole contrast between having the right stuff given in the wrong way reminded me of my nephew. He was probably 4 or 5, and the couple families had gotten together at a restaurant, and people order their entree, and you order your entree, whatever it might be, and then the waitress says, would you like soup or salad with that? So it goes around the table, and there were a lot of people there. You know, I want a steak, soup or salad. Well, I'll have the soup. I want whatever, soup or salad, I'll have the salad. And it took a while. So finally, it gets around to my nephew, who's been patiently waiting, and he's pretty bold for a little kid. He had ordered at restaurants before, and I was impressed with it. But it gets around to my nephew, and, you know, the waitress says, well, what do you want, sweetie? What are you having to eat? And with great confidence, he said, I'll have one of those super salads, right? There you go. He'd heard super salad, super salad, super salad, like literally 10 times. So when it was his turn, he said, I want the super salad. And of course, we laughed and we tried to explain, hey, it's not, it's soup or salad. And it's a silly story, but it reminds me of how we could take the right thing and just, it gets skewed, and next thing you know, we're not in the right place. So the people had really messed up with the golden calf. And of course, God wanted to just do away with them then. And we have Moshe, a great prophet, who intervened on the behalf of the people. And even though when he came back down the mountain, he was pretty angry, right? He smashes the tablets. But anyway, so we're not going to have the super salad now. You know, well, let me find my place. Now God's going to do it right, and He's going to help the people do it right, and He's going to have all these details to help them do it right. And they're not just throwing their money at it and it's done. They're actually participating in building the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And it wasn't just a fancy tent. It was a place where the people could physically, tangibly be near God, and He could be near them. So what did Moshe say? Exodus 33, 15 through 16. Going back to when God was really not happy and He was really done with the people. Moshe replied, if your presence doesn't go with us, don't make us go on from here. For how else is it to be known that I have found favor in your sight, and I and your people, other than by your going with us? That is what distinguishes us, me and your people, from all the other peoples on the earth. So again, the people have another chance to get it right, and they were extremely generous. And Moses had to decree, stop, you can't give any more. And it wasn't ginned up. God had provided everything. He provided the skills. He provided the materials. And He even provided, I believe, the stirring of their hearts. So everything that we have from God, even our ability to cry out to Him, comes from Him. We weren't able to create it on our own. So, again, I told you I had some numbers. Generally, we look at things through spiritual lens, but I just had to know, and again, I've put these numbers up before, but they're creating the elements for the tabernacle. One big thing was the menorah. Anyone remember how many pounds the menorah is? 66 pounds. And my math might be a little off, but roughly today, that's $1,502,820 worth of gold for just the menorah. The next parsha gets into some of the specific weights of the gold and the silver used. Silver was 6,650 pounds. That's not quite $2 million worth of silver by today's standards. I told you the people were generous, right? And then the total gold, amazingly, was 1,930 pounds. That's about $43,946,100. That's a very lavish tent, for lack of a better term, a place to meet God and for God to meet the people. And it's not always a measure of just how much money can you spend, but it really does. I like to see those numbers like, wow. God stirred people's hearts and they gave an awful lot. And I'm guessing they probably remembered the golden calf and they remembered how they had given then and realized, wow, we really messed up. But here's their second chance, right? To give lavishly in the right way, applied rightly. So, sometimes it's fun just to make the numbers bigger. Anyone curious how many pesos $43 million might be? It's a lot. What's our slides show, guys? 127 pesos. That's almost 1 billion pesos that was spent for the tabernacle. And remember, the people gave way more than was needed. I don't know how much way more. A third more, twice, 50% more, twice as much. Maybe they gave 2 billion pesos. Please, here, we want to participate. We want to bless God. We want to give. So, anyway, I know it's silly to do those numbers, but for me, it helps put it in perspective. This was a big deal on the physical and the natural. So, it's really neat to talk about the tabernacle. It's neat to talk about the temple, but the fact is that it's not there at the moment. But we do know that it will be built again, but the fact is it's not there. So this verse was encouraging to me, and I'm not saying this is meant to replace the physical temple, but Ephesians 2, verses 20 through 22. You have been built on the foundation of the emissaries and the prophets, with the cornerstone being Yeshua the Messiah himself. In union with him, the whole building is held together, and it is growing into a holy temple in union with the Lord. Yes, in union with him, you yourselves are being built together into a spiritual dwelling place for God. So it's not one guy. I mean, Yeshua is the cornerstone, but each one of us is very important to the body of Yeshua, of Messiah. And it's important for us to stay unified as much as we can in our love for Yeshua and our love for each other. So I was really blessed by what Andrew and Garrett and Barbara and everyone has said today, and Sandra's prayers, and I really love you guys and appreciate that we don't have to go through this alone, and that we can help each other and we can love each other. And I know that God works all things together for good, and I'm certain of that. It doesn't feel like that, but we know in our hearts He's going to make a lot of goodness come out of this. So folks that are able to come to the graveside service tomorrow, that'll be good. But if you're not able to, don't feel, like, hey, don't feel any guilt over that. But I do look forward to seeing a lot of y'all tomorrow as well. So with that, I'll say Shabbat Shalom.